So I've always been very passionate about HIV care. Just from my background, growing up in Kenya in the 90s, this disease was just very devastating. I would see it in the news and just wonder, like, how did we get here? How do we help these folks? Like, the images were just like the people who are so skinny and they're going to die, and there was no hope when you had this diagnosis. So I always had that personal interest because I knew people that were dying from that disease at that time. So in pharmacy school, I had connected myself to learn and see how I can be a resource for these individuals, and how I can, even if I don't have the medicine, but could I offer support and compassion so they don't feel alone and isolated. So that's kind of where my passion for HIV was, since people said there was no cure. So I was like, if there's no cure, then we could have compassion at this point. Something has to fulfill for these individuals. So she had quite a few of HIV patients in that area. And so I connected with their doctors and said, hey, I'm filling this prescription, and I noticed that you're seeing them for HIV. They're seeing a primary care for these other things. And I'm seeing drug interactions. I'm seeing opportunity for optimization. And I don't see an agent for depression, yet this is how the patient shows up. So those doctors started taking my cell phone and say, thank you. That was so helpful. I didn't know that was happening. So I was able to bring comprehensive medication management to her. And then patients started flocking into that community, And so when she closed due to health reasons, she was diagnosed with cancer and she just couldn't handle the stress of running the business. I just missed it. But those doctors still had my cell phone and they would message me, say, hey, I have a new patient, HIV positive. We're about to start hepatitis treatment. What do you think? So I became just a resource for them, not knowing that fast forward, these are going to be my partners that would actually help me succeed in my own business.
Yeah. So did you have providers that pushed back on that? Like, hey, we got this. Stay in your lane, Amina.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
And I went back. So people have asked me that, I've worked with providers and I try to send them this communications and I tell them this and I don't get the same outcomes. So I took an assignment and I went back to every provider and I say, can you tell me when I approached you or when I sent information, why didn't you give me the response that someone else told me they're receiving? Each one of them said, your approach was non-threatening. You didn't judge me. They showed me messages coming from the pharmacy. It's almost like, you're wrong, I'm right. And so I realized it's in the approach and how we're communicating. There's definitely ego involved in healthcare. But guess what? I have zero ego. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm fine, And so when I messaged them, it says, hey, you probably already looked at this, I'm curious, but I'm always genuinely curious because I can't say I'm right or I know everything. So everyone that I went back to, they said, you always just seemed curious and you wanted to learn. And sometimes it made me realize that I was wrong, but you didn't approach me that way. And so one at a time kept saying that. I said, I received messages telling me you put the patient on the wrong dose. Okay, so what's the right dose then? Or they said that the pharmacists make them their patients, your doctor put you on the wrong drug. So we are creating this fight, or feud. And so they don't like it. So I tell these pharmacists who say this, what is your approach? The provider always feels they own the patient because they have a very sacred bond with this patient, right? They are the ones who found what the issue was. They diagnosed the patient. I realized there's such a privilege when you go to your doctor and just share your fears and share all this, and they get to give you a life-changing diagnosis, right? There's already a trust bond done there. So then you come to my pharmacy and I find a discrepancy, and how I approach this is so important. One, I don't want the patient to lose trust with their provider because they're human too. Mistakes do happen in the pharmacy and in the medical practice, right? But the professional relationship was said, hey, so they felt like I was always looking out for them rather than I just wanted to show them I had all this knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that. And even, even if it's not a discrepancy, but like an opportunity, but you have to really walk that line. Like you don't want to come between. You want to, be that addition, that value add, not a divisive force. Yeah.
So curiosity has always made it easier because sometimes they are right and I was wrong. They're like, yes, that would have been ideal if this patient had not failed 1, 2, 3, or if this patient did not have this kind of other health condition that you don't know about.
Thanks for listening to this clip from Beyond the Scripts, presented by the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and clicking the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime we post new content. To stay up to date with all of the latest independent pharmacy news and content, follow PioneerRx on your preferred social media platform.